Hey, what's happening? Good to be with you guys out there. Welcome to Mikaio Messenger. It's great to be back with you. I wasn't expecting to come back and do another video on this, but God just keeps showing stuff. And, I was going to just tag it onto another video. I'm still trying to do another video for you guys, but I was going to tag it onto that video. I'm like, no, now it's like too much. Now I have to make it its own video. So anyway, I got some more interesting stuff to share with you about this whole thing. If you haven't watched the first video, please go back and watch that video. There are spoilers in this video if you haven't watched that video. So I encourage you, don't watch this right now if you haven't yet watched the video that you see on your screen right there, which is what do the Q, Antichrist, I Pet Goat, and Rapture have in common? You won't believe it. 2022. Go back and watch that video first, then come and watch this video. Because like I said, there's some spoilers and some things you'll maybe be confused about if you haven't seen that video first. They are throttling these videos. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the mention of the Q, and this is the week that they're doing all that. I'm guessing that's why. I have it as a keyword as well. So that could be what the issue is. But they're basically telling me that they're letting me know that's being suppressed, basically. Not telling me why, but they're telling me that it is. The last one was, so I'm assuming this one probably will be as well. So share it with your friends, make the little extra effort there if you want to share the link, because less people aren't going to find it probably as much, because they basically tell me that they're not sharing it so much. So in any case, very interesting stuff. I hope you found that interesting in the last video. Like I said, I wasn't even that last video, I wasn't planning to make its own video either. I was just going to kind of mention it and move on to something else. But then I just kept finding more stuff, and I'm like, what? And so then it just became its own thing. So in any case, but welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody out there. David, Michael, Krista, and it's good to see you guys in the chat. I'm going down the chat here to see who's in the mix right now. Let me go over here so I can see a little bit better. And awesome. Afro Anime and Daria, David, two Davids, David, and David, EJ444, Freya, Christy, Laura, Michael, Cass, Shy Marina, Sketchy, Ann, TX, Sweet P, and W, and Wendy. Awesome. Good to see you guys. And so interesting stuff. I mean, in that last video, like I said, go watch the other video, because I'm about to reveal some spoilers here if you didn't see the other video. So interesting things we're discovering. I didn't think I'd really be revisiting so much IPG. We did a big expose on that. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go back. That sort of the Christian take on I Pet Goat. You might want to go back and watch that as well, because we go over a lot of stuff. I think Matthew was helping me with that. He was actually the one kind of taking us through it. We did sort of a tag team interview there, so you might want to go check that out. But in any case, as we discovered, not just in the last video, but also even in the video we did yesterday, I had started talking about this then. And it was just sort of a side note with this whole C7 being the square that takes the queen in chess. And, I wouldn't normally be doing this during the week that they're, I'd wait a little while, but we don't have time, guys. I'm sorry, but we just don't have time. Time is of the essence here. And so this stuff just has to get out there. Information has to be out there, and people need to know, because time is up. The time is up. So basically, so we've got this whole video. I'm not going to play it all now. We did that last time. But basically, it revolves around this scene with this, C7. And for a long time, we're trying to figure out, was that Laudato Si? Is that maybe the G7 summit or something? But it seems pretty clear now. Hindsight's 2020, but it seems pretty clear now that this seems to tie into the queen, and hence the chessboard that's underneath it. Also, the MASON flooring of any MASON LODGE looks exactly like that as well. And then we talked about this coin, as you see as the main picture here. We talked about that in the last video as well. Well, God always just kind of keeps prompting me to look into things. It's like I got to keep pouring out the oil till the jar is empty, sort of thing. Like Elijah told the widow to pour out the oil until it's done. that's kind of how I feel with some of these things, because God just keeps giving me some more stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I guess you want me to talk more about this. I guess you have more you want me to share about this. So that's kind of what happened here, and even the last time too. I wasn't expecting all that. So basically, last time we talked about this, the whole concept of did QV write Alice? And I know some people are like, oh no, that's ridiculous. It was Lewis Carroll, and then other people think, well, he could have been under a pen name, and so on and so forth. That's the big debate. But whether she did or she didn't, she's tied into it because people believe that she may have. And so that's why it fits into the whole IPG, and why you've got, because I was always wondering, what's Alice in Wonderland doing in this video with the white rabbit and everything. I mean, obviously she's kind of mysterious, and so I guess it kind of goes with that. But I think there's a more specific connection here that they're making to the whole Victorian era. It's called the Victorian era because of Q Victoria. I mean, that's who it's named after. And so it's a very significant, she had a very, very huge impact. In fact, if you look at the family tree here, it's quite a tree. And she actually had the most kids of anybody. I'm thinking, really? Her? I mean, you get one look at her, you're like, she had kids? And she wanted to have lots of kids? And somebody else wanted to have lots of kids together with her? I mean, she's kind of scary. So anyway, but she had a ton of kids here lining up the top. But there's the royal family tree. See, they trace it. They start with her. Potentially the woman who might have written Alice in Wonderland, according to not just conspiracy theory, but actually, if you looked at that first article we looked at, I don't know if this will take me back to it or not, but that first article was saying it was the Historical Society that was saying that she wrote it. So it's not like people are just kind of making this up. There's actual historical societies that are claiming it. Let's write Alice in Wonderland. And let's just, the first thing that comes up is according to the Continental Historical Society. Now, this was in the Washington Post. I mean, this is not just some, somebody who's just kind of coming up with a funny idea. But they're actually saying, I guess they want to block me because I'm not a subscriber. But anyway, this is in the Washington Post, and it says, according to the Continental Historical Society, Alice in Wonderland was written by Victoria as a sort of grief therapy in the months following Prince Albert's death. It's supposed to be an allegory of Victoria's insecure youth when she was wondering whether she would become Queen of England. We talked about it before, back in those days, and probably even these days, people of royal family, they're not to commiserate with the riffraff, so to speak. So they're not going to be writing books and doing all these kind of fairy tales and things like that, because it might besmirch the image of the royal crown. So it might take away from her, otherworldliness, her highness that they want to bow down to. Oh, she wrote Alice in Wonderland. Well, that kind of diminishes her. So instead, they would write under a pen name, or they'd have somebody else put it out under their name, which is perhaps what took place with Lewis Carroll. We don't really know. But again, there's a lot that supports this concept, it seems, that she supposedly may have written it. And so, in any case, so moving on from that. So just wanted to kind of refresh you on that. Okay, so keep going here. Okay, so that's the royal tree. So I was thinking a little bit more about the queens. Oh, I said it. It's too late. I was thinking more about the Qs that are in Alice in Wonderland, right? And you've got these two Qs that are in the story. Now, again, I'm not an official expert on Alice in Wonderland, okay? That wasn't one of my big picks. Wasn't, I was more into Star Wars and, superheroes and things like that. So I wasn't really thinking about the story of Alice in Wonderland, and I don't really remember much about the story of Alice in Wonderland. So I'm looking this up and kind of relearning it myself. So what took place in this story? So basically, you had these two witches that are involved with Alice in the story, and from what I gather, again, I don't know all that well, but the red witch is the mean witch, right? She was mean to Alice, and I got the sense that maybe the white witch was a good witch, like Glenda or something, trying to help you. So, okay, from Wizard of Oz. So, okay, so there you go. We got these two witches. Well, how might that tie into this whole connection with Alice and the cues and the royal family and all this kind of stuff. Well, here you've got this, lovely up and coming white princess, so to speak. I don't want to say white because of her skin color. I'm talking about she's dressed in white, okay, but kind of seen as the white or the pure, the pure princess. Everybody loved her, thought she was wonderful, thought she was amazing, all these kinds of things. And from what I understood is that the mother Q was a little jealous of her, a little jealous of the attention that she got, kind of like, who's the fairest of them all, mirror, mirror on the wall, and so there was a little bit of some rivalry going on there, perhaps, within the royal family. They didn't get along, they didn't like her, and there's a lot of theories there as to what ultimately happened to her. I'm trying to get over to the page. So there you have someone in red, okay? So now, of course, they probably each also wore white and red. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's something to consider. Is there some sort of parallel story going on here, right? So what prompted me to do this video was when I was looking into it, and I was like, well, what was the dynamic between these two, and what ended up happening? What was the end result? Well, we know what the end result in these two stories were, right? Sadly, we had, let me see if I can get this page to open. Well, before I get to that, we had this flower right at the beginning that opens up, okay? And this flower, it's pretty clear. It looks a lot like a lotus flower, right? Because that's the one I just showed you, that lotus flower there. If I can open it back up again, I'm not sure. Is it this one? No, I think it was this one. So, right, I think you'd pretty much say, okay, yeah, that looks a lot like a lotus flower. But there's another flower that it could be hinting at. And this is called the English rose, or England's rose. Now, if you notice, it's also pink. It also, if you were to spread back those center petals, you'd see yellow pistils inside. I think that's what they're called. I'm not sure what they're called. But those little yellow prongs that stick up that we see in this original photo, right? So obviously that one looks a lot more like a lotus. Lotus also means rebirth, being born again. For example, the great to the re to the set that we've talked about recently happening. But it is kind of an interesting tie-in with this whole Queen and Alice in Wonderland and the two witches and so forth, or the two Qs, I should say. And then you've got these two different flowers that are similar, not exactly the same, and obviously the lotus does look a lot more like it. Now the lotus is interesting. I guess it goes in the water at night and then it blooms again. Every day it blooms again, so that's why it's associated with rebirth or being born again, because it goes in the water and closes up, and then in the daytime it opens back up again, so it's reborn. Sorry, my computer is running really slow right now, so I'm trying to click on this. Oh, I think I just closed it. Anyway, you saw the picture. So, well, wouldn't you know it, when the Princess of White, you could say, passed, they referred to her as England's Rose. That was the term that they used for her. In fact, Mr. Elton John actually took his song Candle in the Wind, which was written for Marilyn Monroe originally, and he rewrote it and called it Goodbye English Rose, or England's Rose. And he wrote it specifically for her, for the princess who passed, right? And now he has a white rose in the front, because again, that's kind of how you view her, right? She's kind of this white, I'm not talking about skin color. I'm just talking about sort of that pure, sort of glowing, shining light, of a person. And that's kind of what you associate with her. But it is interesting that other English rose is pink and has the yellow inside. And I just accidentally closed it, but you saw it, so you know what I'm talking about. You can go back and look at it in the video. So it's kind of an interesting tie-in. They're calling it England's Rose, but England's Rose really is that pink rose. At least that's when I looked it up. I looked up and it says they called that the English Rose, that had those pink petals with the yellow in the middle. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Then I got to this and I said, well, okay, that kind of clinches it there in terms of at least sharing this all with you. I thought, well, what happened to this white queen? What happened to her? And it says, Alice arrives to rescue her, too late, only to see that the Q has been executed, which sounds pretty grim for a children's fairy tale. And I don't know if this is the original or not, but that she's been executed by a guillotine at the hands of the Red Kingdom. I thought, wow, really? That's interesting. Now, again, I don't know the real story, if that's how it went down or not. That sounds pretty intense for a kid's story, but Alice is a little bit of a out there story. I mean, it's kind of got drug use involved. There's a lot of things going on there. So anyway, Alice arrives to rescue her too late, only to see that the Q has been executed by a guillotine at the hands of the Red. It doesn't even say the Red Q per se, but the Red Kingdom. There you got kind of the kingdom, the beast system, so to speak. So all of that's very intriguing. Now, again, whether you agree with it or not, or whether you think she really wrote Alice or any of that doesn't really matter. What really matters is that when they put this all together, were they thinking about these things? Like, were they putting it in for that reason? Is that why they put all these things in order the way they are, with the crown coin underneath the foot and this lotus / maybe English rose rising up out of it? But really, it's representing the great re of the set. The phoenix rising out of the ashes, the lotus is coming up. So that's why probably they made it more like a lotus flower. But it is interesting that it has kind of a parallel to the English rose, and that's what they ended up calling her. And then you got the queen thing and the Alice connection. I mean, there's just so much there. So it's like, interesting. Okay. And a couple other thoughts on this. Here it says, let's see. It says in 37:36. Okay, so if you take the date, basically, if you take the date that this video came out, which was also the date, if you remember, that Alice in Wonderland was written or inspired, was July 4th, right? So I just took the date of the video, which was July 3rd, 2012, was the date of IPG. And I did it until September 25th of this month, 2022. And it just happened to come out to 122 months and 22 days, or 10 years, 2 months, and 22 days. So you have 222 and you have 2222. And as we all know, this 22, man, it just keeps coming up, doesn't it? In the last video, it was that V is the 22nd letter, and all these 22 connections. And so wouldn't you know it, it just happens to be 222 or 2222 going into September 25th. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, you could even do it from the 4th, but again, this is from this particular video. The IPG video was put out on this date, so thought that was kind of intriguing as well. Then I took the numbers 37, 36. I put them into the little Strong's blender here, and the first meaning of it in the Hebrew means to be mantled or to be clothed. And I thought that's interesting. Is this the clothing of the Antichrist? What's happening? Who's being clothed here? What's happening? Someone, I did think about his shoe there. It looks pretty fine. He's got this steel-tipped black boot in that picture there that, kind of looks a little slick, like not even something I necessarily would think Mr. B would wear. But is he being clothed? Is there something about his clothing that's, what's the significance of the boot with the steel toe on it? Is there anything about that might be intriguing as well? And then the other connection is in Greek, it means to dig or to excavate. And here specifically it has a connection to September. It says from Homer down, the September to dig or to make digging. And I thought about people rising up from the grave, digging. What's the digging going on here? Or excavating. Is it because they're going to build it to the back to the better? So you're going to excavate, you're going to dig it out. You're going to be clothed in a new way. I mean, might mean it, not mean anything, but I just thought, well, that's kind of interesting, something to chew on there. I just want to kind of close this off with a little scripture for you, just about flowers. in connection with the harvest. So it says the life of mortals is like grass; they flourish like flowers, like a flower in the field. Now this one is. It says the wind blows over it and is gone. It in its place remembers it no more. Okay. But from everlasting to everlasting, the Lord's love is with those who fear him, and his righteousness with their children's children, with those who keep his covenant and remember to obey his precepts. The Lord has established his throne, and his kingdom rules over you, overall. So that's kind of interesting. Life of mortals like grass, they flourish, they flower in the field, but then the wind blows over and it's gone. It plays remembers no more. Well, that's kind of what we're waiting for, right? To be gone. So, but here's more specifically to the harvest in Isaiah 18 and also later in Isaiah as well. Isaiah 15 or Isaiah 18, it says, for before the harvest, actually, let me go back one here. It says, this is what the Lord says to me, I will remain quiet and will look on from my dwelling place, like shimmering heat in the sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. That's interesting. It's been particularly hot lately, especially in England. But he's looking on from his dwelling place in the heat of harvest, right? It's harvest time. For before the harvest, when the blossom is gone and the flower becomes a ripening grape, he will cut off the shoots with pruning knives and cut down and take away the spreading branches. They'll all be left in the mountains, birds of prey, to the wild animals. So see, he's going to come and take the flower. That's us. He's going to pluck the flower, right? Before the grapes come out, who then are left to the birds of prey, as we see in Revelation, right? Then the birds of prey and to the wild animals, the birds will feed on them all summer, the wild animals all winter. At that time, gifts will be brought to the Lord, etc. But it's talking about taking away this flower at the harvest time. And then one other one on that was kind of interesting too. In Isaiah 28, it also talks about this. Again, Isaiah is just chock full, man. Says that fading flower, his glorious beauty, set on the head of a fertile valley, will be like figs ripe before harvest. Okay, a flower is like figs before harvest. Why are we making that connection? There's always this connection with figs, right? As soon as people see them and take them in hand, they swallow them. In that day, the Lord Almighty will be a glorious crown. A crown? A glorious crown? Interesting. A beautiful wreath for the remnant of his people. There's always a remnant, right? That's interesting. So there's a remnant, those who get left behind during the trib. Interesting thought. He will be a spirit of justice to the one who sits in judgment, a source of strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. So kind of interesting, kind of intriguing connections there. Just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to come back hopefully and do one more video at least for you today. But just thought that was intriguing and kind of wanted to tag that on to the last video for you. So hope you got something out of it. All right, love you guys, and I will be back shortly. Keep looking up. Jesus is coming back. The time is here. It's all being fulfilled. Everything's coming together. All right, love you guys. Talk to you soon.